to move. Thank you, Sarah. I almost forgot about that again. And move on to our next speaker, Lauren Brey. And I saw Lauren was on. And Lauren, if you have some slides and you want to share your screen, I'll introduce you. Lauren Brey is joining us this evening from the Farmers for Sustainable Food. She's a farmer herself and the managing director of this organization. And I want to give a shout out to Jed Davis from Cabot, because really it was Jed that put us in touch with Lauren and the wonderful work that the Farmers for Sustainable Food is doing in the Midwest. And I really felt like when I met Lauren and heard about the farmer groups in the Midwest, that we were immediately friends. We had so much in common, and it really made sense to have Lauren kick off our meeting tonight talking about what's happening in Wisconsin with their farmer-led groups and sustainability, stewardship, water quality, and kind of form new friends outside of Vermont that very much have the same goals and many of the same challenges that we have here as well. So I know you'll be talking about what you do, but I'll just quickly say that the Farmers for Sustainable Food is a collaborative, industry-supported effort to promote and support farmer-led solutions to today's environmental challenges. And so I think that sounds very familiar to our farmer organizations' missions and goals as well. So Lauren, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And I am going to turn it over to you.
Great. Thanks, Heather. Hi, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
We can hear you, Lauren, but can you put your presentation on full mode?
Now, can you see it? Is that better? Okay. Yep, I was going to say I have two screens up, so I'm trying to see my notes and see all of you and hear all of you, but thanks again for having me tonight. I'm really excited to just be able to connect with some fellow farmers, and it was interesting to hear from your Secretary of Agriculture. I think, as Heather said, we are facing very similar challenges, but also opportunities. So tonight, I just want to give you a peek at all the different things I'm going to try to cover in a short period of time. I'll try not to talk too fast, but also please feel free to ask questions in the chat box, and hopefully we'll have a little bit of time for maybe some discussion at the end. So I'll share a little bit about myself, obviously talk about our organization, but also give an overview of Wisconsin's producer-led watershed program that might be probably very similar to what all of you have in Vermont. I'll share a little bit about where the program, how it started and what's coming next, and where we see opportunity from our organization's perspective. I'll talk about a sustainability project framework that's available, as well as a project, and actually several projects we have that are testing that framework out, and then wrap it up with some challenges and opportunities, and hopefully, like I said, time for at least a couple comments maybe from all of you. So nice to meet all of you. I grew up on my family's dairy farm in southern Wisconsin, went to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, have degrees in food science and life sciences communication, a little experience in the cheese industry, but now part of my husband's family farm. We're the fourth generation here in Northeast Wisconsin, Sturgeon Bay and Door County, if any of you are familiar with that. So my husband, Jacob, myself, our daughter, Rosella, and then his brother, sister-in-law, and their children, along with our 12 full-time employees and a couple part-time team members, care for our 750 dairy cows. We have about 100 crossbred beef cattle that we started marketing locally through Brey Family Beef in 2020. We also manage about 1,200 acres owned and rented. We custom raise heifers in addition to raising our own young stock. We have 4 different farms as customers. And we have our home farm and then our heifer farm, which is where my husband and I live. As probably many of you, our farm has changed over the years. It used to have a cherry orchard and hogs and chickens, but my father-in-law and then my husband and his brother, our passion is really dairy cattle. So that's where our focus has been, with the addition of the beef as well. And now in the last 5 years, we've really increased our focus on conservation. We are involved in our local farmer-led watershed group, Peninsula Pride Farms, and the Door Kiwani Demonstration Farms Network, which is a partnership with NRCS, our State Department of Agriculture, and some other organizations where we'll try different things on our farm that we'll then share with other farmers to try to see what kind of things we can learn and then get that information out through that network. We like to be involved and engaged in our community. Again, I'm sure like many of you, we love hosting farm tours and have made some really great connections. Most recently, the Climate Change Coalition of Door County has been out to our farm, and we host a Festival of Nature tour every year. So it's just been a really great way for me personally too, to meet people in our community since I didn't grow up here. But besides all of that, my full-time role is Farmers for Sustainable Food Managing Director. And as Heather said, we are a collaborative industry supported effort, and it's really about supporting farmers in their efforts, specifically around environmental challenges. So we are the only collaborative nonprofit that's providing resources, advocacy, support, and empowerment for farmers who are doing that work on the ground during this increased interest in agriculture and food. And we were started in 2016 by 3 organizations, EDGE Dairy Farmer Cooperative and the Dairy Business Association. I technically work for EDGE, our staff does. We have 3 organizations and 3 boards of directors, and FSF is that 3rd leg. So myself, along with 1 3/4 other staff members, really do the day-to-day work for Farmers for Sustainable Food. And this has been a collaboration from day one. And our key partner from the beginning has been the Nature Conservancy here in Wisconsin. They've been a great partner to work with in our efforts with this. So just want to briefly share our mission to empower farmers to develop and implement practical, innovative solutions collaboratively for those 3 pillars of sustainability. And our vision is a sustainable food system in which farmers, their communities, and the environment thrive. So to put it simply, we work in 2 areas, developing and managing sustainability projects, and then supporting those farmer-led groups, really with anything and everything they need. And we like to highlight the on-farm sustainability learning opportunities that we help them with. But it's really about the sustainability project piece, and that also ties in with our work with the farmer-led groups. So some of the services that we provide to various farmer-led groups include administration, event planning and execution, communications, everything from websites, social media, press releases, media relations, fundraising support from grant writing and reporting to securing sponsorships. We can help them with strategy, connecting them with technical support, and then really where we're growing is this project development and management piece, and that requires a lot more partnerships. You get more ideas when you can collaborate with others. So we're really trying to build that network of partnerships to get that support to the farmers. So we currently work with 6 groups around our state. This is a nice visual to show where they're located. Again, as I mentioned, we're in the Northeast region with Peninsula Pride Farms, but really some wonderful farmers all over the state. And I'd like to point out that all these groups are in sensitive areas for groundwater quality. There's karst topography, which is fractured bedrock with shallow soil over the top. So it has posed a challenge to farm in these regions, along with other concerns around groundwater. So farmers have really stepped up to try to improve that and make it better for everybody. So these next slides I'm going to share are just to give you a little bit of information about our state's Department of Agriculture program for funding producer-led groups. So I can't speak to a whole lot of detail other than what's on the slides, but again, just wanted to give you that bigger picture about how these groups are formed, because the 6 groups that we support receive significant funding and support from our State Department of Ag's program. So it was started in 2016. It's a governor-led budget initiative and has strong industry support throughout the state. And it's really centered around that farmer-to-farmer outreach and education, as I'm aware yours are as well. So in order to receive grant funding, you have to have at least farmers within your watershed to apply. You also have to have a collaborating entity. The maximum right now is $40,000 per group per year, and the funding has continually, for the most part, increased since the program started, which has been really beneficial. Here's a nice graph or chart to show how much funding there was in the first year. A little over $200,000 for 14 groups, and now we have had 36 groups receive funding. So really, this program has just grown significantly since it started, and we really are starting to feel that energy with all the farmers that we work with as well directly. This is a nice map to show all the different groups that have been funded over time through the state grant program, and groups range in size. I think our smallest group has maybe 6 or 8 farmers. They just got started 2 years ago. One group has almost 50 members. Watershed sizes are different, and all the different groups might work with different collaborators. We're not even a collaborator officially with some of the groups that we work with. They work with their county land conservation department or maybe their local extension agent, which is again just key to that partnership and shows that it's really working well. All the groups also may have different structures. The groups we work with are all 501c3 nonprofits and do operate with a board of directors, but some of them don't. And that's just what's really cool about the program is the flexibility to allow farmers in each region to decide what works best for them. So what do the farm-led groups do with the grant money? Outreach and education events. As I mentioned, we help plan a lot of those for the groups that we support. They might have on-farm research projects. Again, partnerships are super important here, whether that's with their county land and water department. Something called Discovery Farms we have here in the state also does a lot of research with farms. Cost share programs are very popular. We've seen a significant growth in those programs as well. Incentivizing different farmers to try a new practice, and then partnership projects, which I'll be getting into next. I just want to touch on too that the State Department of Ag through this program has really tried to foster networking among the groups. We do that to the degree we can with the groups we work with, but this has been another great way for us to connect with other collaborators throughout the state, the farmers to get to talk to one another, whether that's at the annual workshop they had last week or through webinars or different events. And finally, from the state perspective, they had to determine, is this funding doing what it's intended to help improve water quality? We all know you need some actual data to know if we're making a difference. So a few years ago, they started requiring farmer-led groups that receive funding to share a little bit more about what that funding was going towards, particularly around cost share and acres of practices, so that they could not only document the number of practices we're seeing on the land and the number of acres, but then they could use that to model estimates for soil erosion and phosphorus reductions. So just wanted to share, they're trying to start getting more data about what's actually happening out there. But what's next? We have established groups, like all of you, you're established. You've had a variety of programs and successes, but where do we go from here? I really see this need for more data, and the groups we work with, how can we collect data that we can also use as a management tool on our farm, not just reporting that I planted so many acres and cover crops, for example, but what does that mean in terms of sustainability metrics or carbon sequestration that I could maybe then participate in a carbon market? We need to get to that next level. Beyond that, we know dairy processors are asking for more information from the farm or other food manufacturers. We also need to find support for farmers to use these platforms. It's just another thing to do, to put your data and information into a tool. So how can we get people who can support farmers in using these tools, but also through that engage the supply chain, the companies or the people in the community who want to know what we're doing. And then finally, how do we reward our continuous improvement on the farm? If I'm going to do these things and I'm going to continually get better, what does that reward look like? Is it pay for performance, as was mentioned earlier? or some other kind of incentive. Those are all things that we're trying to address. And one way we're doing that is through our framework for farm level sustainability projects. This is free for anybody. It's on our website, farmersforsustainablefood.com. I encourage all of you to check it out. It's really a step-by-step guide of things to think about if you're interested in starting a sustainability project with partners. It's not prescriptive. It's not intended to say these are things you have to do or tools you have to use, or that this guarantees you'll be successful, but it's really things to think about, as I said. And we hope that more people use it. So the framework overview, there's 4 sections, talks about engagement, formation, operation, and conclusion of a project. We focus on both financial piece and the environmental, broken down into 2 sections. So how do we look at the field level on farm metrics on my farm that relate to different things like greenhouse gas emissions or carbon, for example. But then we also have a component about local resources. Again, knowing that water quality has been a big topic of discussion in our state, and it sounds like Vermont as well. That was important to us to include pieces to help farmers and their partners look at local water quality. So we put this framework to the test with our pilot project in Southwest Wisconsin. Through this project, farmers did financial and environmental analyses. They got individualized reports, and we are facilitating peer-to-peer learning with all of that. And I'd like to point out, this is not prescriptive. We are not telling farmers what practices to use. We're just helping them document what they're already doing on their farms and getting management information back to them about that. Then also sharing the aggregate outcomes more broadly. So it's a win-win for everybody. And our project did receive a national award last year. So I'm going to go into a lot more detail about this next. We had multiple partners that has been key to this effort being successful. So besides our team, the farmer-led group is the Lafayette Ag Stewardship Alliance. We work with Grande Cheese, a processor here in Wisconsin. Nestle has provided funding for this effort. The Nature Conservancy, again, a partner from day one, a local technical college, our national dairy checkoff and state dairy checkoff, state corn checkoff have provided some funding. And really everybody in this project is getting some sort of value. So I'll be getting into a little more detail about that. So how did this project come about? Well, we've talked about the desire of the farmer-led groups to quantify their efforts. And this might be similar to what some of you are experiencing. You're trying new practices, but how do we put some actual numbers behind what that means for water quality or other sustainability metrics? At the same time, our organization was approached by Grande Cheese to support their needs for sustainability reporting to customers like Nestle. So it was a great opportunity to bring partners together to talk about this concept of let's pilot a project. And the development of the framework was part of that project because we wanted this to be something others could replicate and learn from. It wasn't meant to just be for a certain county in Wisconsin or even just our state. We're really hoping that others can get something out of the work that we're doing. I'd like to give a little shout out to Houston Engineering. They're the consulting firm on the environmental side of the project, and they have been great to work with. And we really would not be able to do what we do without them. They are the data scientists behind all of the outcomes that we're talking about on the environmental side. And so I just like to plug again, that partnership has been crucial. So down in the right-hand corner, that's that red square is Lafayette County. That's where this farmer-led group is located. And our project in year 2 has 15 farms participating, a lot of animals and acres. We have 9 dairy farms, but also hog, crop, and beef farmers participating too. So this isn't just about one commodity either. We're really trying to work with farmers in a community. Our year-one report is on our website. Again, farmersforsustainablefood.com. Under projects and resources, you can find the framework and the report. Right now, we are finalizing the year 2 report. And originally, this project was only set to be 3 years, but the board of directors of the LASA group, the farmer-led group, is seeing value in this. So they voted to continue it for 2 more years. So we'll have a total of 5 years at this time when we wrap up the project. I'd also like to point out we're seeing more interest in this model. We've added 3 projects last year, 2 more in Wisconsin, and 1 that we are getting started out in South Dakota. So this concept is really taking off. So the different components of the project, we're trying to get a whole farm picture here. So we have a financial piece, field level analysis, looking at a watershed, and then also adding in this component on dairy barn, greenhouse gas, and energy, because there's not one tool that I'm aware of that measures all these things. And these were some of the important components to the various project partners. So we have 4 farms that did the financial analysis, and I'll share a little bit more about the first 3 tools here in the next slides. But all the participating farms then completed their field level on-farm analyses. The watershed is obviously the watershed the farms are in, or the majority of farms in that group are in, because there are more than 1 watershed in the county. And then we had a couple of farms use this farm environmental stewardship tool on the dairy side. So again, we're trying to get that whole farm picture, but it takes a lot of tools to get there. So on the financial side, 3 dairy farms completed it in year 1. We added a crop farm in year 2. This is all being led by Southwest Wisconsin Technical College, their farm business management instructors. So I can't go into too much detail if you have specific questions on the tools, but I'll just share a little bit. This program we use FinPac, which is a farm financial management program used by educators, and it's developed by the University of Minnesota, which I think it's been cool to just use tools from different areas that many other farmers are already using just in their daily business. So through this program, farmers can evaluate their income and expenses to look at profitability of each enterprise and try to understand their financial position. We're also getting financial trends to look at progress toward goals. So it helps farmers analyze their financials as well as benchmark. There's a national or a database they have called FinBin, which is one of the most comprehensive that there is out there that people can go to and benchmark against farms of similar size and commodity in Wisconsin and Minnesota at this time is where those farms are located. So now I'm going to dive into the environmental tools. I'll just again be highlighting the first 2 here. So Field to Market is an organization of multiple organizations across the food and ag value chain that came together to say, this is how we'd like to measure row crop sustainability. So farmer groups all the way to international food companies and retailers agreed on, this is how we'll measure sustainability for this. So again, all 15 farms in the project completed these field level analyses for 4 different crops. Whatever of these 4 they grew, they put data into the platform, and they got scores back on 8 different metrics for those fields that were enrolled. So each field had a score assigned to it for each of these 8 metrics. They also had farm averages, and then all farms were benchmarked against each other. And then they also got to see how they compared to state and national averages where enough data exists. So in our project, we had scores in all these areas, but we chose to place a little more focus on greenhouse gas, soil carbon, and water quality, because those were topics that are important to the partners in the project. Finally, on the watershed side, we're using the Prioritized Target Measure Application, or PTM app, and this can gauge positive impact to local surface water. And this tool ties really nicely with Field to Market's FieldPrint platform, because through the FieldPrint platform, we know what conservation practices farmers are doing on a certain percentage of their acres. And then we can apply that in this application to get an estimate for improvements in local water. And this was a tool developed by and for the Minnesota Board of Soil and Water Resources. So what did we find? Let's get to the point here, right? Well, year 1, of course, was focused on collecting data to establish a baseline, but we did find that there was an average of 5 conservation practices per field per farm, having a positive impact on sustainability. We also found existing conservation. So things that the farms are already doing is reducing sediment reaching the local streams and rivers by 28%, which I think reiterated to the farmers, what we're doing is definitely steps in the right direction. And interesting, and I think positive for the livestock farmers, was that they had better greenhouse gas emissions and energy use scores because they use manure for fertilizer. So that was really interesting. And then through the PTM app, that Watershed tool, we can run scenarios to try to help the farmers figure out ways they can continue to have a positive impact on local water quality and the most cost-effective way. So we ran some different scenario tools. One example, scenarios, excuse me. So one example was an estimate of adding cover crops to 50% of eligible acres in the watershed could achieve additional reductions for sediment, nitrogen, and phosphorus. So again, just trying to give the farmers ideas for more things they can do if it makes sense in their farm. So year 2, we increased participation. When we started this project, we had 12 farms, we're up to 15. Water quality scores, we saw an increase, which was positive over the years of data collection, and greenhouse gas emissions decreased. So good news there. And the conservation practices being implemented by the farms kept 960 dump truck loads of soil from getting into local streams. So again, that's something that is a positive outcome of this that we can share with all stakeholders, but especially with the local community. And then again, as I mentioned, there's plans to continue this project for several more years. On the financial side, again, year 1 was getting baseline data. The 3 dairy farms did the financial piece in year 1. Again, we added that crop farm in year 2, so I don't have that called out here. But there was benchmark data on 3 different crops to compare to Wisconsin and Minnesota farms. So what did we find? Project farms had higher yields than the benchmarks, but they also had a higher direct cost of production. So that was attributed to custom hiring for manure application, harvesting, and land rent. They also found return per acre was greater for corn silage and alfalfa than the benchmarks, but not corn grain. But they are saying that utilizing many environmentally conscious practices can create an economic benefit to cropping on our farms. So just again, year 1, can't pull a ton of conclusions from that information. We have some initial year 2, and we're seeing that many environmentally friendly practices in cropping systems results in similar yields and greater gross return per acre. But areas that we continue to work on, how do we collect the data? How do we compare it? People who live in the financial space know it's really hard to get it to be apples to apples often. And utilizing a variety of conservation practices makes it more challenging to determine the exact cost benefits of each practice. So if I'm a farmer stacking practices on one field, how do I know what to attribute maybe some of those improvements to? It's hard to say it was because of the cover crops or because I did no-till or whatever. So just things to keep in mind as we work on this project. So zooming back out, project as a whole benefits. We're trying to get that full farm picture. It's not perfect, but we're doing something to hopefully better inform future projects. It's beneficial for many partners. The farmers are getting management tools. They're getting field level and farm level information about sustainability metrics. And in some, for those farmers doing the financials, that's helping them better manage their farms as well. We're also giving value to the processors involved in the project, that they could hopefully eventually take some of that data to help prove sustainability of their products and tell that story through the supply chain. But the farmers participating are also getting that information they can share in the local community, and that's helping them build trust. We can say, because we are doing X, Y, Z on our land, we're having this much impact in improving our water quality, which has been really important. And just, again, we're trying to share the message. So that framework is free to use, and we hope others get some sort of value out of it. So finally, I think you all might agree some of these are challenges and also opportunities. How do we reach middle and late adopters? That's been a big topical conversation among the farmer-led groups we work with. Some are starting to plateau a little bit with membership, trying to get more farmers excited and engaged, but it's sometimes really hard to reach those next levels. As the groups grow and they have more programs, they have more goals, they need more administrative and project support, which is where our team comes in. But as I mentioned, we're a pretty small team right now. So how do we get more people to support these efforts? And then how do we reach customers with our outcomes? The farmer-led groups have had great impact in local communities through field days, other opportunities to talk about what we're doing in our fields, have those conversations. But then I think too, how do we reach that customer in the grocery store who buys a product that whatever we produce on our farms went into, so they know that sustainability work we're doing on our farm. And finally, consistent funding. I think this is one of the biggest challenges. How do we support farmers to do these practices if they require more money than we might be able to afford? How do we get more cost share, and again, to farmers who need it for different things? How do we fund more projects like what we're doing, this data collection, the data analysis? And finally, that work gets done when there's people to do it. And people usually cost money because it's sometimes hard to find a volunteer who wants to dedicate as much time as needed to do some projects like this. So those are all things that we're trying to figure out as we scale this. So with that, I would just say, what am I missing? Open it up for questions. My contact information is here, and I'm sure Heather could share it with everyone too. Check out our website. We're on social media. Would love to connect with everybody.
Great, Lauren. It was wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing everything that the farmers are doing in your neck of the woods. And it's, again, just really exciting to hear what other groups are doing and synergies that we might have as groups working together across the country, and how we can support each other. And it's just really exciting, again, to meet you and connect all of our groups. I would, if anyone has a couple of quick questions, I definitely would like to give Lauren a few minutes to answer questions. There was one in the chat from Chris. He was wondering if Wisconsin still has small watershed programs. They used to provide 5 years of research on pollutant loading, then 5 years of implementation.
I'm not sure about that, but I can try to reach out to someone at our state Department of Ag and see if they know anything about that.
Great. Another question from Kent Henderson. Wonderful collaborative approach. Are environmental results based on strategic phosphorus and/or nitrogen water testing, or are they on, models, predictive models?
All the work is right now being done based on modeling. There's no way that we could have the funding to do, edge of field testing or the type of testing we would need to include this many farms at this point. So it's all done on modeling. And in our year one report, the appendix has specifics about the tools we use and how they work. So if you're interested in all of that, or if you have further questions too, I can always connect you with the engineering team that knows way more about all of that than I do.
Yes, and Jed Davis kindly put the link for the Farmers for Sustainable Food Framework in the chat. So thank you, Jed. And I'm sure all of our groups will be looking at that and seeing again, how we can, maybe do something similar. Stephen Leslie is asking, is Wisconsin implementing payment for ecosystem service programs for performance or outcomes? And does Farmers for Sustainable Food participate or help administer those
Great
programs?
question. We don't have anything yet that we are engaged in. I was part of developing something that has been introduced or is going to be introduced at the legislative level to have like a state nutrient trading or carbon market, but obviously don't know where that's going to go, if anywhere. But I know there's a lot of conversations happening around this, and we are trying to determine if and where we would fit in. Again, the challenge is bandwidth at this point, because the majority of our time is spent doing all the things the farmer-led groups need to do their day-to-day activities, cost share programs, board meetings, field days, and then projects like this. But that's something we're definitely exploring.
Great. Well, it sounds like our groups have very similar opportunities and challenges, and we appreciate your time again tonight, Lauren. And I'm hoping you can stay on and hear a little bit about what our groups are doing, but if not, we definitely will be in touch again. And this is a great segue into our farmer watershed organizations. And now each one of the organizations is going to take 10 minutes. And my job again is to keep them on time and talk a little bit about what's happening with the organizations, same kind of framework, opportunities and challenges, and those great opportunities that we see continuing to build for all of our watershed groups to work together. And we're going to start with the Franklin and Grand Isle Farmers Watershed Alliance. So Scott, if you can put your slides up or share your screen. Scott Magnan is the FWA chair currently, and also the owner of Scott Magnan's Custom Service in St. Albans, Vermont. He also dabbles a bit in farming himself, as well as being a critical custom operator up here in Franklin County. And then Scott will turn it over to the Champlain Valley Farmer Coalition, that will be presented either by George Foster tonight or Sarah Audette. Unfortunately, Brian Kemp, the president, is not able to join us this evening. And Paul Doughton from the Connecticut River Watershed Farmers Alliance will wrap up the groups, and then we'll kind of go back into discussion. So Scott, turning it over to you.
All right. Green. Yes.
I can see you and I can see the screen.
Great, thanks. All right. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for attending our meeting. We're excited to have another good attendance to follow up last year's trial at this. So first off, I'd just like to introduce some of our board members. Myself, Scott Magnan. Our vice chairs, Larry Jarvis, secretary, Heather Darby. Our directors are Wayne Fisk, Steve Hardy, Tim Magnet, Nick Manning, Roland Rainville, Carrie Thompson Atherton, Ellis Wright, Dan Larrabee, Tyler Webb, and our farm assessment coordinator is Jeff Sanders, and our program coordinator is Catherine Davidson. So the members I just mentioned, they provide a lot of leadership for the community, really starting at their own farms, their own businesses, their own occupations. There's a tremendous amount of knowledge and hard work behind our leadership, and we've really been able to get a lot of things done, and continue to provide a lot of support to other farms, support at meetings in the farm community with other service providers, people that want to help us and figure out problems. So there's kind of a list of the things that we felt that we provide leadership in, and kind of goes along with our goals. We're actually looking at our mission statement, which is in the next slide, but there's our current mission statement. We've been involved recently with the Ecosystem Services Working Group. We've had a member on that working group since its start. As Anson mentioned, we were one of the groups, along with the other groups, that kind of got the wheels turning on payment for ecosystem services. We've been involved in precision ag technology. We did the Precision Ag Forum prior to COVID. Maybe something that we bring back. It's certainly important, goes along with payment for ecosystem services, nutrient efficiency, and kind of the topic of modeling versus in-field data, and how we manage it, and how we maybe use that as a selling point, and how that'll change over time. We currently provide a lot of legislative representation and participation. It's definitely one of the things our role has increased in over the years. we have a lot of collaborating projects. We haven't had a lot of like in-house FWA projects, which is something we want to discuss moving forward. But we do collaborate a lot with UVM Extension, Northwest Crops and Soils team. And through this experience, the board provides leadership in the farm community. Current project specifically would be the grassland manure project in Lake Carmi, Discovery Acres in St. Albans Town, the CIG grant interseeding trials, which happened all throughout the northwest part of Vermont at many of our board members' farms. And we've collaborated with some farms on a grant that I have for precision ag training. We listed out our challenges and our opportunities, and I was interested after we had met and after I reviewed this, how in line the challenges are and with our opportunities. So the challenges could all kind of just be met as obstacles that lead to opportunities. So there is a very different set of challenges the FWA faces today than when the FWA started in 2006. Funding, support, leadership. We used to be able to do a lot of smaller projects. Those have been more challenging. A lot of them have just been done. Projects have become bigger. They take more collaboration. So we're reviewing that. Our membership faces new compounding challenges as well. If you're at the meeting, you probably have a pretty understanding of what those challenges are. COVID-19 has made organizing workshops and events a challenge, and in some cases impossible. So we had done a lot of meetings to educate farmers and provide networking opportunities. So that's been a challenge and something we hope to get back to. Stay engaged with and up to date on membership. We've struggled with that in the past. So the opportunities go right in line with our challenges. The FWA board will take part in a strategic planning in 2022. We were able to submit and get accepted for a working lands grant to help us re-strategize so we can come back stronger in the future and go over bylaws and things that we want to work on within our group. Refocus the FWA to better serve our member farmers in today's ag climate. That goes with the compounding challenges, and also with our strategic planning, we hope to address that. Broaden our mission statement within our strategic planning to be more inclusive of all agriculture in our counties and expanding membership. So I think in our mission statement, we mentioned dairy. We want to broaden that out a little bit in the changing climate, not exclude dairy, but include more, be more inclusive. Stay informed and engaged in political environment and on the state level, find new and innovative ways to support our mission. We've had some really good collaboration with the other watershed organizations that continues to grow, and there's definitely strength in numbers. What we are doing is valuable and quantitative or qualitative. Can show with data the impacts of our initiatives and partnerships. So a lot of work going on. The collaboration, we're really able to pool everybody's information and what's happening out there in the world and come up with some valuable data and some ideas from that. Attend each other's meetings, cross promotion with the numbers of advocates increasing and the number of farmers decreasing. It is timely and important to have farmer representation at stakeholder meetings. So as we collaborate more, we can attend more meetings, and if one group's not there, hopefully another group's covered us. And the bottom one says we're generally on the same page, so that if we can cross collaborate with smaller numbers, a similar message or the same message is being promoted at stakeholder meetings. which is valuable to the stakeholder. It's valuable to the farmers, and in general, just doing a really good job of being on the same page and going in the similar direction, I think, has been a strength of these collaborative efforts. So with that, I'd like to introduce George Foster from the Champlain Valley Farmers Coalition.
I would invite George to come off of mute. So George is calling in by phone.
There,
There we go. Take it away, George.
there, we're together. This is by phone, so you won't be able to see me. But good evening, I'm George Foster, Vice President of the Champlain Valley Coalition. I am also the co-owner of Foster Brothers Farm here at Middlebury. And I'm here on behalf of the board president, Brian Kemp, who is unable to be with us, but sends his regards. With question one, where is the Champlain Valley Farmer Coalition at in 2022? If there's one word to describe the Farmer Coalition today, is transition. We've been experiencing a lot of leadership transitions lately, and we look to the future with a sense of optimism and excitement for the opportunities ahead. Earlier this year, our first executive director, John Roberts, was appointed to the USDA FSA of Vermont. He stepped down a couple weeks ago. Our communications and media consultant, Sarah Audette, who has also stepped up to be our interim director, she will serve until July 31st, when we hope to have a permanent executive director to take the place. On top of all of this, our board secretary, Kirsten Workman, who has been our agronomy specialist at UVM Extension, has now gone to work at Cornell Pro Dairy, which means she has left our organization too. And finally, on not too distant horizon, our board treasurer and co-founder Jeff Carter will be retiring June 1st. We owe both Jeff and Kirsten a debt of gratitude for all their hard work, support, and expertise that they've given to our organization and farming community over the years. In a moment, I'll share about the opportunities and challenges that exist for the Farmer Coalition in the future. But I'd first like to touch briefly on some of the highlights of this past year. It goes without saying that the COVID pandemic has had a considerable impact in our operations. It has made it more difficult to connect with our members on a one-to-one basis as a group out in the field. However, with the easing of COVID restrictions over the summer and early fall, the Farmer Coalition was able to return to some in-person outdoor events. Back in July, we gathered at Blue Spruce Farm in Bridport, where we were joined with UVM Extension's new Associate Dean and Director, Dr. Roy Bedford, as well as Dr. Joshua Faulkner, UVM's Extension's Farming and Climate Change Coordinator. Dr. Faulkner shared exciting details about a couple research projects he is engaged in. In one project, he and his team are collaborating on a major 6-year project to study the impact of soil health management strategies, including cover cropping, conservation tillage, manure injection, and more. The findings of their research, which they are conducting at Blue Spruce, will have implications on protecting water quality and addressing climate change. And then in October, Mark and Cheryl Cericio, owners of the Meeting Place Pastures in Cornwall, welcomed us along with Paul Knox of Knoxland Farm in Bradford, Paul manages a large dairy farm and sees the value in grazing his dairy heifer replacements. Both Paul and the Cericios have great perspectives on the expertise to offer to this topic, and I encourage you to visit our website to see photos and learn more. When the Farmers Coalition was not in the field, we were on Zoom. Our former director, John Roberts, was appointed to a number of legislative committees, including the Agricultural Ecosystem Subcommittee of the Vermont Climate Council and the Payment for Ecosystem Services Working Group, just to name a few. The Ag and Ecosystems Subcommittee was charged with providing the Vermont Climate Council with a list of potential activities that could be implemented on Vermont farms and forests, which would reduce greenhouse gas emissions, improve carbon sequestration, and increase the resilience of Vermont's rural communities to the impact of climate change. They submitted their list in December of 21, and the group feels satisfied with the product, offered substantial guidance to the Vermont legislature on the best course of action to address climate change. The Farmer Coalition also participated actively in the Payment for Ecosystem Services Working Group, an effort that was initiated in 2019 by the 3 farmer Watershed organizations. At that time, we had petitioned the legislature to provide funding and a working group to develop a payment system and structure to reward farmers for many of the ecosystem benefits that provide as a result of the practices implemented on their farms. Pandemic put plans on hold for a time, but resumed in spring 2021. Since then, much progress has been made. The working group collaborated with the UVM on an assessment of their other types of PES programs in the United States and around the world. They're now working with the consultant who is putting together a proposal draft plan to incorporate all that has been learned. The Vermont legislature has also extended the life of the PES working group for another year. Finally, the past year saw an increase in communication and media activity from the Farmer Coalition. We revamped our website, joined various social media platforms, and partnered with local radio stations on public education campaign to teach folks about what's happening on farms with respect to water and our quality of soil health on a seasonal basis. And of course, we partnered with our friends at the Connecticut River Watershed Farmers Alliance to host the first Farm 24 VT, a 24-hour social media celebration of Vermont agriculture. There will be more about this event later on in tonight's program. Question 2, what are the predominant opportunities and challenges of CVFC at the present time? The question comes at a perfect time because of all of the leadership transition in our organization. We are using this moment to reflect on our mission and decide on the future direction. Here are some of the highlights. We're going to expand our mission statement to include advocacy in the addition to education and outreach. Over the years, our concerns have grown to include not just water quality, but also soil health and climate smart farming. Through our revised mission statement, we also hope to make it clear that our organization is for all farmers, no matter their size, product, or method. In the year to come, we also want to refocus our efforts on best supporting our members through hands-on education and peer members mentorship. Again and again, we hear from our members that this helps to build confidence to trying new things. Hopefully, COVID will cooperate. Related to this, we're going to encourage, welcome, and support engagement by the next generation of farmers. We have been fortunate to have had a long-standing board of directors who are deeply committed to the work, and we hope that that legacy can continue long into the future. Finally, we are going to explore ways of diversifying our revenue sources. Question 3, what are some of the collaborative opportunities for Vermont Farmers Watershed? We see a number of ways we can work together, including co-hosting field events, workshops, trainings for directors and members alike, with plenty of opportunities to visit to get to know one another. Partnering on advocacy efforts around sharing issues of concerns, sharing data and farmer stories across the association organizations to amplify the impact of our work, and to continue co-hosting Farm 24 BT and placing a greater emphasis on education for the public and the agriculture's role in protecting water quality and supporting soil health and engaging on climate smart farming. We would like to thank you, and now I'd like to hand it over to Paul Doughton, owner of Doughton's Farm in Barnard, who's the board chair of the Connecticut River Watershed Farmers Alliance.
Good evening. I don't need slides, it's just me. As George mentioned, my name is Paul Doughton. Together with my wife Sherry and our son Brian, we operate Doughton Farm LLC, a diversified dairy farm in Barnard. We produce maple syrup, sweet corn, and plow snow, and we also do some custom baling. So all these adventures are weather dependent. I'm one of the founding members and the chair of the Connecticut River Watershed Farmers Alliance, which was formed in 2015. When we formed, we wanted to make sure the state equally recognized farmers on the eastern side of the state. We also want to thank the other two watershed organizations that you just heard from for their support and assistance during our years of development. When we first started, we formed a partnership with the White River Natural Resource Conservation District, then led by Mary Montour, who you just heard about. She didn't talk, but she is now with the Vermont Agency of Agriculture. We have a limited presence of UVM extension in our region, and we appreciate all their efforts, which we try to help support. We do also have New Hampshire members, and we do tap into the services of UNH extension when it is appropriate. I'm told that the western side of New Hampshire also has a problem being recognized in their state, so we have that common goal. I'm not going to introduce all our board members, but we have a board of 12 members with a variety of commodities, once again dominated by dairy. We have been meeting monthly, with one of those meetings in the past 2 years being in person. Our average membership is between 45 and 60. We are more closely tied now to the White River Conservation District, which is led by Jennifer Byrne. The Conservation District agricultural outreach person, Lyle Nichols, also helps us with administrative assistance for our QRFA, we call it, CRWFA. We've also been fortunate enough to be secured a couple grants from the state to aid in our development. And we also this year are going to do a strategic planning to make sure we get involved and know what our future is. We've also been very appreciative of the 2 CAP grants we received to cover a large part of the Esch and Atchison no-till drill purchased 4 years ago and last year. These 2 drills, as well as the hay buster that we're managing for the Conservation District, have been used on a large amount of acreage. In our definition, it's a large amount of acreage. I realize in the Champlain Valley, it's not much. It takes time and patience to keep these drills in good repair and transport them around our region. We have a board member, Steve Stocking, who manages this popular portion of what we offer to our members. Over the past 3 years, these drills have covered nearly 2,500 acres. We're also seeing a catalytic effect occurring with a couple of individual farmers applying for and receiving the CAP grants to aid in the purchase of their own no-till implements. On another note, there's an effort going on across the state to get all the groups and individuals who work with farmers on water quality issues to be aware of each other so there's not wasted efforts and confusion among the farmers and the service providers. This is a huge effort and it needs to be focused by all of us. As has been stated early in the meeting from Secretary Tebbetts, there is money available for all agriculture to make sure that water quality is maintained and hopefully improved as we move forward. We are also working to help a group in Massachusetts to form a Connecticut River Watershed group in the near future. Another issue that doesn't pertain to the other two groups is the relicensing of the power producing dams along the Connecticut River. It is a continuing process, and because of the impact of the fluctuation of the river level, on farmland, we have kept close track of it. I will mention that the Connecticut River Conservancy is working diligently on this, and we are working with them. Grazing education and technical assistance are an area of interest to the Corfa. And we have been advocating to the Agency of Agriculture for inclusion of pasture land in the payment for performance on phosphorus production. Although phosphorus is a concern in the Connecticut River watershed, we would like to see nitrogen being considered as well. Now the Connecticut River has a total maximum daily load for nitrogen with a 10% reduction goal. As been mentioned by the other two groups, input to the payment for ecosystem services discussion has been on our agenda as well. And I represent our group on that working group. We appreciate and advocate in favor of the effort to keep farmer input at the forefront in these discussions. As has been mentioned by a couple of us, lastly, the invitation to testify in Montpelier show that all three of our groups are looked at as being part of the system that needs to work, not only to maintain, but to increase the quality of our water. Well, thank you. And now let's move on to questions. Heather, you take it back now.
Yes, thanks, Paul. Thanks, George. And thank you, Scott. That was really wonderful to get the updates about what everyone is doing and working so hard. I personally want to share thankfulness for the farmer watershed organizations. Now speaking as someone that works for the university and for extension, because so much of what we do is supported by the watershed alliances. And like Paul said, he supports extension whenever we ask. Champlain Valley, Franklin and Grand Isle, so many of our projects revolve around the participation of these watershed groups. And I just personally can't thank you enough for everything that you are doing, not just to help further research, conservation, but to support the farmers throughout this state. And I just don't feel like you folks get enough gratitude for everything that you've done for the farmers in this state. So just a quick heartfelt thank you to all of you. We do want to open it up for any questions for the watershed groups, and we certainly have a few minutes to do that before we wrap up with some updates on Farm 24 VT and also some door prizes. Pretty excited about that. Do we have any questions from folks in the audiences or in the audiences? We only have one audience, I think. Oh, it's so quiet out there. So quiet. Paul, I was really interested in your comment about nitrogen. And, it's always been interesting to me. I mean, I realize I also really understand why phosphorus is a significant emphasis in our state, but I certainly would agree. There are just as really many farms in the state that are dealing with nitrogen losses, and that commonly gets a little overshadowed by, our work in phosphorus. So I really appreciate you bringing that up. Are you folks doing anything in particular in that area or hoping to?
I think it's safe to say we're hoping to, now that we got a TMDL for the Connecticut River. Just to add to it, one of these dams is in Wilder, right just above White River Junction. When they were producing power, they could drop the level of that lake, that river by 3 feet. And it would go all the way back to Bradford, 40 miles away. So at some points we had almost Lake Connecticut. And then we would have, there would have been a lot more discussion about phosphorus on our side of the state. But we use the P index just like everybody else. And we are looking at trying to figure out a way to get more emphasis on nitrogen.
Well, I would make an announcement that a new RCPP that's funded through NRCS was once again funded in the Connecticut River Valley fall. So there will be, again, some increased emphasis on your side of the state and other farmers in other states along the Connecticut River, which is really exciting, and would love to follow up with your group on that work very soon. That's in partnership with the American Farmland Trust as well out of Massachusetts and the Conservation District. So you'll be getting.
We will be in contact with you as well, Heather.
Yeah, so very exciting. And there's a strong emphasis for other farmers in that area on greenhouse gas emissions. So there's going to be some new programs, and that's really very exciting. So I'll be excited to work with folks on that. There is a question here. Are the watershed associations including algae blooms in your management plans? Not sure if any group can answer that or not.
There aren't many algae blooms in the Connecticut River, so we do not do that. But we do have lakes, and I'm sure that is being considered, but I'm not completely aware of that. We do have a couple of crop consultants that are on this call. I know they might be able to give us an answer.
Scott, anything? Yeah,
I can speak. I think Heather could definitely answer this question. She works with nutrient management plans all the time, but I don't think we address algae blooms directly, but indirectly, most certainly. We're trying to apply nutrients in the most efficient way possible with limiting algae blooms as one of the primary objectives in those nutrient management plans through the reduction of phosphorus.
George or Sarah, I'm not sure if you have anything additional to add on that.
I would invite either Jeff or George to come off mute and respond.
I would just say that yes, algae blooms was a driving factor from way back, and that's why we try to keep phosphorus out of the lake. Hey, listen, I'd like to chip in just for a minute and reinforce what Heather said, that for me, the last 10 or 12 years or more than that, this organized farmer group has been so critical to be a partner with UVM Extension and the districts and with NRCS to help show some of our crazy ideas. And I have found nothing but good support from all the farmers from all three of these watershed groups. And I just hope to see that continue strongly into the future, and just that all you guys as farmers realize how important it is to have you in our back pocket, helping us along with these ideas we come up with. Right? Thanks.
Yeah, how crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I'm looking for any additional questions. I really enjoyed the photograph that Scott showed of the Farmers Watershed Alliance out on the lake. And that was a meeting I missed, of course, in the summer, but I think it's important, and Scott really wanted to include that to show that farmers also, enjoy the lake recreationally. and also really care about the quality of the water from the same perspective as everyone else, and even more, because it's not just important to the function of their farm, their communities, and of course they enjoy being out on the lake just like everyone else. And Scott, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but I'm bummed I missed that day seeing all of you in shorts.
Oh, that was a really fun evening. That was at Lake Carmi. One of our board members camp, Stan Larrabee. So we had a really nice meeting at his camp. He took us out on his boat. We got to enjoy the lake, and yeah, we all definitely enjoy the lake. Talk to multiple farmers with camps around Vermont. So we like to get out and enjoy a rare day off in the summer, and the lakes are often a place to go. I've done Bay Day for 25 years down in the Bay or more. So really enjoy that day down in St. Albans Bay.
Great. I think Scott put into the chat, that the watershed organizations, just like Lauren said in Wisconsin, we need membership, we need leadership, and we need participation. It's, it is a lot of work, but the difference that these groups makes is significant. We would encourage folks to get involved in any way that they can. Just even becoming a member helps the groups continue forward. I see someone put something in the chat, which I can't quite read. Maybe Sarah, you can see it. Oh, Lauren Weston. Thanks, Lauren. She says, if anyone is interested in getting together in person, there are 2 events in March in the northwest part of Vermont, and she included some links. And hopefully this summer we'll all be getting to do more get-togethers and field days, and really enjoying learning from each other again. Anything else from the watershed groups? And Anson Tebbetts just thanking all of you. So George, Paul, Scott, any last words before we turn the meeting over to Sarah to wrap things up and hand out our door prizes, which we can't win, by the way.
Just thanks for coming and keep up the good work.
Great. All right. Well, before I turn it over to Sarah, a couple of notes. We heard about the Payment for Ecosystem Service Working Group, and so many of our farmers, both members of watershed organizations and not members, participating in that working group and program. And for the farmers on here that haven't been involved, just be looking out for the Payment for Ecosystem Service survey. Yep, another survey, but a really important one that will be, you'll probably be bombarded with the emails from different groups, including your watershed organizations, including UVM, including the districts. We want your feedback. If you're a farmer on this call, we want to hear from you about the Payment for Ecosystem program. Okay, so that survey will be being sent out by UVM. I see Alyssa White's on here and Noah. They've been working hard on this. So please keep your eyes open for that. And we want your feedback. We want to create a program that is meaningful and useful to everyone. So I will just throw that out there. And now, Sarah, take it away.
Thank you, Heather. All right, so good evening, everybody. I'm Sarah Audette, and I'm the Interim Executive Director of the Champlain Valley Farmer Coalition. I'm here to tell you about the second annual Farm 24 VT, which is a 24-hour social media celebration of Vermont agriculture, food, and dairy that we host in partnership with our friends at the Connecticut River Watershed Farmers Alliance. One friend in particular, that's Amy Richardson. So Farm 24 VT is a day when farmers, food producers, and agribusinesses throughout the state take to social media to share photos, videos, and stories using the hashtag Farm24VT. They're giving folks throughout the region a behind-the-scenes look at where our favorite local foods and dairy products come from. This year's event is coming up on May 18th, and it starts at 5 a.m. and runs for a full 24 hours. We're thrilled to be hosting this event a second time because last year was a lot of fun and a big success. We had exactly 100 farmers, food producers, and agribusinesses sign up to share what's happening behind the scenes. Altogether, they reached an estimated 150,000 people watching from home, work, and school throughout the region, not just in Vermont. We were also honored to have Governor Phil Scott proclaim May 12th as Social Media, Agriculture, Food, and Dairy Day in Vermont. But what I think is most exciting about this event is that it brings our amazing agriculture community together. Folks are located all over the state of Vermont, and they represent a broad range of foods and other farm products, including dairy, meat, eggs, maple, honey, fruits, herbs, fungi, believe it or not, rice, and the list goes on. Some are organic, some are conventional, but all are deeply committed to their work, and they're proud to help educate the public about Vermont's agriculture. And the numbers don't lie when it comes to the impact of their storytelling efforts. Following the event last year, we polled our audience and learned that 80% of them felt very positive about agriculture and food production after Farm 24 VT, compared to just over half of respondents before the event. We also learned that a little more than 80% of audience members reported that they intended to buy more Vermont farm and food products. And of course, as you can see there on your screen, a little more than half also said that they now intended to visit a Vermont farm in person. If you're really into statistics, there are more of them that you can find on our website, farm24vt.com, where you can download the full report. So while Farm 24 VT is an opportunity for the public to be educated and entertained by our agriculture and food sectors of Vermont, it's also an opportunity for them to win great prizes. So just like last year, we will be giving away prizes every single hour of the event, and that even includes the wee hours of the morning. Thus far, we have a Vermont Harvest basket from Dakin Farm, $100 worth of products and swag from Vermont Creamery, a caramel sampler from Fat Toad Farm, and many more prizes that you can see there listed on your screen. So you might be thinking, well, this is all well and good, but I'm not really sure how to use social media. Well, we've got you covered. So once again, this year, we're teaming up with our friends at New England Dairy to offer a series of social media workshops exclusively for Farm 24 VT participants. Our beginner session will be on March 10th. March 30th at 10 a.m. And then our intermediate session will be on April 7th, also at 10 a.m. More details and registration for both of those sessions will open up next week. So stay tuned to the website for that. And then Farm 24 VT participants also get access to an online support community to connect with other participants, share ideas, ask questions, get help. And we also have a really great social media toolkit that's filled with post ideas, templates, quick tips, and more. So if you are ready to dive in and get started, registration for Farm 24 VT is open. In just a moment, I'll drop a link in the chat where you can sign up for free. And if you happen to be among the first 50 to register, our friends at the Farmers Feed will send you their 2022 marketing content calendar, which is filled with more than 500 holidays and events that are specifically related to the farming and agriculture industries. And before I close, I just want to say, hey, thanks to all of our sponsors thus far. None of this would be possible without their generous support. So far, our top sponsors are Farm Credit East and the Vermont Agency of Agriculture, Food, and Markets. Of course, we've got great support from New England Dairy, Reed's Equipment, North Country Organics, Seedway, Bordeaux Brothers of Middlebury, the Farmers Feed, and the Vermont Economic Development Authority. And then finally, there's our website, farm24vt.com. If you've got questions, there's our email. And of course, you can find us on social media. We're all over the place. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All right. And then I think I'm up next as well to do the door prizes. So Heather, I'm hoping that you can help me out with that. All right,
Sure thing.
give me just 1 second to find that spreadsheet. All right, we'll see how well this goes. Hoping that we're going to be picking people who are actually here versus who registered. So Heather, I'm gonna ask you in a moment to pick a number between 3 and 57. And so the prizes that we have tonight, I guess we'll start out with, we have 3 $50 gift cards to Tractor Supply to give away. Each of the 3 Farmer Watershed organizations have donated these gift cards. So Heather, can you give me one number between
Here,
3?
Heather, pick it right out of my hat here.
You
Got
see
it?
my hand going in there?
3 and 57, please.
Okay, I'm gonna go with unlucky number 13.
Okay, hopefully that person is here. Let's see, Ellen Cronin. Let's see, checking the list. She's not here. Pick again.
21.
Don Faulkner, also not here. Let's try again.
Okay, number 7.
Oh, Lauren Brey.
All right.
We'll give her credit for that. We'll assume that there's Tractor
Yeah,
Supply in Wisconsin. Okay, so we have
All
2
right.
more gift cards to give away. Pick again.
All right, I'm gonna go with 9.
Karen Calicott. Let's see. Not here.
47.
Allison Spacek.
Oh, I didn't see that name.
Mm-mm.
Okay, 51.
Let's see. Kathy Erfer. She is here. All right.
Oh,
So
good.
Kathy, we will be in touch.
All right.
How to get that gift card to you. All right.
All
Last
right.
one.
All right, here's lucky number 31.
Daniel Lee. Yes, here.
All
Okay.
right.
Daniel, I will be in touch. All right. And then the last one, I have a visual aid actually that I will just share quickly. So our friends at Cabot have been very generous to donate a gourmet pantry pack. It includes a reusable tote bag, a cutting board, a cheese knife, and a whole lot of cheese, as well as a coupon for more Cabot products. And that has a $50 value.
And I can't win this.
No, I'm afraid
Oh,
not.
All right.
I'm afraid
I'm gonna
not.
go with 28. My age. How's that?
All right, let's see. Kent Henderson. I think that's a name that I saw come in.
Yes, Kent was on. Yep.
All right, there we
I'm
go.
here. I'm here.
Yay, congratulations, everyone.
All right,
And,
so I will reach out to all of the winners via email and arrange to get everything to you.
Great. Well, thanks everyone for attending tonight. And we're right on time, just as we had all planned to keep our agenda moving forward tonight. We really appreciate all the speakers. Thank you so much, Lauren, for joining us all the way from Wisconsin, and Secretary Tebbetts also. And we really appreciate your time tonight, and for all the Watershed organizations for chiming in and sharing your good work. And Sarah, thank you so much for coordinating all of this. And Catherine too, who's in Mexico, by the way, everybody. So, but Sarah and Catherine did a lot of work to pull all the pieces together. So thank you all, and have a wonderful evening. And we'll see you hopefully this summer.